Good afternoon. We have a quorum. The meeting is going to commence. Today we will use the request to speak system. So members, after you have taken a seat, do not change seats. Agenda item number 1. After the last meeting, the Secretariat has issued no information papers. Agenda item number 2, items for discussion at the next meeting. Please note that the policy briefing given by the Secretary for Development in relation to the policy address will be held between 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. on 31st of October, Tuesday. Please note that. The next panel meeting will be held on the 28th of November 2023 on a Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. The administration suggests discussing the following items. 1. PWP Item Number 7268 RS Cycle Track between Chunwan and Tunmoon Detailed Design Site Investigation and Construction Stage 2. Agenda Item Number 2. Construction Industry Security of Payment Bill. 3rd, funding scheme to support the use of vacant government sites by NGOs. 4, development of common spatial data infrastructure portal. Do members agree to discuss the aforementioned items? Anyone objecting to it? Right, Mrs. Regina Ip. Thank you. I believe something important is going to be disclosed tomorrow during the policy address. I believe they are going to talk about the policy during the policy briefing as well. We are very concerned about the Northern Metropolis development and how funds are to be allocated. Well, as Mrs. Regina Ip said, the policy briefing to be held on 31st of October. If this policy is indeed mentioned, depending on the contents and information provided by the government, if necessary, we can perhaps invite the administration to provide further information. All right? If there's nothing further, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, proposed duty visit to Shanghai. During the meeting on 25th of July, members agreed in principle they were willing to conduct a duty visit to Shanghai. The Secretariat has got in touch with the Development Bureau in relation to the preparatory work. The Bureau supports the proposed duty visit and is more than willing to offer assistance. We now suggest that the proposed duty visit be conducted between 19th and 21st of December 2023, Tuesday to Thursday. The tentative program has been included in LC paper number CB brackets 1930/2023 brackets 03. Upon further liaison with mainland authorities and organizations, there may be changes made to the program. The Secretary for Development and relevant government officials will join the visit. Do members agree to conduct a visit to Shanghai between 19th and 21st of December as proposed in LC paper number CB brackets 1930/2023 brackets 03? And do members agree to invite non-panel members to join the visit? Mr. Andrew Lam. I do support the proposed duty visit, but I understand that the meeting is supposed to be held on 19th of December. Will that be rescheduled? Yes, we will make some adjustments. Well, it's very hard to arrange an appropriate time to conduct a duty visit, so we will reschedule the panel meeting to another date. Well, in fact, we propose that the panel meeting be held on 13th of December 2023 between 8:30 and 10:30 in the morning. Dr. Lo Wai-kwok, please. I do support the proposed duty visit being conducted. I have questions related to the arrangements. I believe another panel visited the GBA to ask to examine certain environment-related issues. And the chairman of this panel was the leader of the delegation, and the Secretary for Environment and Ecology joined the visit as well. But while there were government officials, it was in name a visit made by LegCo members. Is it going to be similar on this occasion? Well, from my previous communication with the Secretary, we believe the arrangements will be similar. But of course, panel members may have different concerns from those of the administration. My suggestion is, with the program, we should focus on areas that we want to look into, but we will also include certain elements that the administration is interested in. For example, the planning in new areas. And of course, that is what we are concerned about as well. So with the program, we will first look into the concerns of the members of a panel. We only have 3 days and 2 nights there. We do want to conduct exchanges on the core issues that we're concerned about first. Well, so I understand that there will be similar arrangements as the one conducted for the environment panel last time. I believe there are some issues of mutual concern of both panel members and the administration. I think that is ideal, and I support using this same arrangements as we did before with another panel. Thank you. Mr. Lee Chen-keung. I also support the proposed duty visit being conducted. We do have a tight schedule, but can we perhaps conduct exchanges with members of the public and residents in Shanghai? I can see that we will have exchanges with the commission, the development commission there, but can we perhaps liaise with other departments or authorities in the mainland? Well, I believe for the matters that are related to the certain departments, the department representatives or the representatives of the authorities would be there. But for residents, it may not be as focused as we have a tight schedule. If there is something that you actually want to know, we can take that into account and make adjustments if possible. I can see that we are going to conduct exchanges in relation to coastal and riverside development, and there's also something about digital development. These are what we have to learn from Shanghai. But I also want to know more about what citizens have to do in response to infrastructure development. Is it possible to learn that when there is development, what experience they have and whether they can share that with us? Well, apart from visits, I believe the persons in charge of the relevant authorities will be there and you can raise your questions then. Okay, thank you, Chair. Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. I'll be brief. I believe what Mr. Lee Chen-keung was saying was exchanges with the locals. I believe we can do that during lunch. I believe some Hong Kong organizations have Shanghai branches. If they are dealing with matters related to what we are going to examine on our visit, I believe we can conduct exchanges with them over lunch. I hope the chair can consider that. All right, we'll look into it. I believe the government also has an office in Shanghai. If we can make that happen, we can make best use of, say, our lunch sessions. Will the Secretariat follow up on that? Well, as I said earlier, because the visit will take place on the 19th, the meeting scheduled on that day will be rescheduled to 13th of December, 8:30 to 10:30 in the morning. Well, from what I heard, members do support the proposed duty visit being conducted. And as per our usual practice, we will not object to non-panel members joining the visit. I believe we'll adopt similar arrangements on this occasion. We'll, after that, obtain House Committee's approval for the proposed duty visit. Well, thank you for your support, members. This is the end of the discussion of this item. We'll move on to the next agenda item number 4, PWP Item number 3477RO, Public Open Space at East Coast Park Precinct, North Point. Will staff members please invite representatives of the administration to come inside the conference room? This is a funding proposal. I remind members that in accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure, members should disclose the nature of any direct or indirect pecuniary interests relating to the item before they speak on the item. Members who wish to ask questions can now press the Request to Speak button. Welcome representatives of the administration here today. And the administration representatives will brief us on the paper. They will give a PowerPoint presentation. I believe it's Mr. Gary Poon who will give the presentation. Thank you. Today I'll brief members on the PWP item number 3477RO. We hope to strive for your support to upgrade the project to Category A. We all want a more connected harborfront. The target is that the harborfront be extended by 34 kilometers. By 2028. We also want to perform some enhancement works to the East Coast Precinct ECP. After that, we'll have more public open spaces and other facilities, and the total area will be 4.2 hectares. Apart from providing quality open space, the precinct will be key to extending the harborfront on northern shore of the Hong Kong Island. It will connect to the boardwalk under Island Eastern Corridor. The western end would connect to the revitalized Typhoon Shelter Precinct in Causeway Bay. After the relevant structures are opened in phases between 2024-2025, the harborfront will go from Belcher Bay in Kennedy Town to all the way to Quarry Bay. There are 3 parts to the development project. One is the part west of Watson Road. That is phase 1 of the precinct. It has been open in 2021 September. We will perform some enhancement works and we will retain some special features of phase 1. The second part would be developing phase 2 of the ECP precinct. Right now it is a works area, and in early 2024, once the area is available, we'll start developing phase 2 there. We hope to provide new experiences through the development of phase 2. Third part to this project is to enhance the adjoining all-seat sitting out area so that it can be better integrated into phase 2 of the ECP precinct. I'll now invite my colleague commissioner for the harborfront to give a PowerPoint presentation. Thank you.
Ms. Lee, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Deputy Secretary. I'd like to walk you through this project as well as the main facilities. Then, on the 3 main phases of the project, I will give you more details. The ECP precinct is located near the PWP Eastern Portal of 4.2 hectares, 772 meters. It enjoys the magnificent view of the Victoria Harbour. This PowerPoint slide shows the main features of the project scope, and I will give you an introduction. This slide shows the proposed master layout plan, and I will introduce the main features. On the left of the slide, you can see at the bottom part there is a new pet garden. It is in the ECP phase 1, which is already open right now. There is also a breakwater, there is an art installation, and some facilities which are also in phase 1, which is already opened. And then on to phase 2 east of Watson Road, there is a multi-purpose lawn area. There are restaurants as well as refreshment kiosks. You can also see an extreme park and an interactive water play feature. Further to the right, there is a shared path leading to further south. Further right. You will see a landscape garden on the rooftop of CWB Eastern Portal. You can also see an outdoor gym area as well as some facilities for cyclists. On the right in the middle, you can see an oil street sitting out area which takes an L shape. In a moment, I will also walk you through this area. Let us take a look at some bird's eye view pictures. In a northwest direction, it covers ECP phase 1 and the multi-purpose lawn area. For the area in green, you can see some restaurants and refreshment kiosks. There are also toilets nearby. The other artist's impression shows the view from the north direction, you can see the green landscape garden, which is actually on the rooftop of Central Wan Chai Bypass CWB Eastern Portal. It is in an elevated area and it slopes downwards towards Central. In the front, that is the thoroughfare of the IEC, Island Eastern Corridor. People can have a view of the Victoria Harbour. And that area will be obstructed by the IEC. And I will now introduce the details of Phase 3. First of all, Phase 1 is that the ECP precinct facilities already available will be enhanced. For Phase 1 of the ECP precinct, it adopts an incremental approach, and some facilities have been opened. They are very well received, including some art installations, balanced by track, and breakwater. We recommend retaining these popular elements. Some of these elements will be enhanced, including more durable materials. Some balustrades will be put in place to replace some existing metal railings. We will also add more lighting installations using natural grass in order to make the project more green in general. For the breakwater with no railings, we will use special materials to remind members of the public that there is actually no railing, so the members of the public will be more cautious. And we will also reform the existing planter wall to make way for the shared path. This is Phase 1 of the ECP precinct. The aim is to enhance some existing measures or facilities. Now, moving on to Phase 2 of the ECP precinct. You can see that the area is covered by CWB Eastern Portal. We'd like to make use of the topside development of this section so that the rooftop can be converted into a landscape platform for leisure farming and sky garden. There will be a slope to provide barrier-free access. This garden is elevated compared to the street level, connecting to two various places. One, on Oil Street, a lift tower cum staircase will be constructed so that a barrier-free access will be provided from Oil Street, and an elevated walkway. Then people can access the garden. And the CWB tunnel restricted area will not be affected. For the other access, there will be a staircase as well as a slide connecting to the street level. This will bring you to the outdoor gym area. On the layout of the landscape garden, the coastal and rainforest or tropical plants will be in place in order to enhance the greening feature of the environment. There will also be the first extreme park along the shoreline, which is actually in the middle of the project. The extreme park will be shared by different people. Skateboarding, bicycle, motocross, BMX and other extreme sports users will be able to use this extreme park. It will be constructed according to international standards for both leisure as well as professional competition use. You may notice that it will be beneath the IEC. The IEC will serve as an effective barrier for lighting or volume, well, I mean for noise, to minimize noise nuisance. Regarding Phase 2, I'd like to introduce to you some ancillary measures on Watson Road. That is a restaurant and 2 refreshment kiosks. Members of the public can enjoy the park in a covered dining area. And that area is accessible for outdoor dining. It can also serve as an outdoor viewing deck for people to watch the view of the Victoria Harbour. Off the restaurant, there will also be a multi-purpose lawn area in the vicinity of the extreme park. For the lawn area, it is a multi-purpose lawn area for leisure activities as well as different competitions. There will be benches and chairs, and some competitions can also be held in this area on the use of space. To the east of the ECP precinct, there will be an outdoor gym area, which is quite expansive, which has a cover. We hope that the public can work out in this area regardless of the weather in order to promote a healthy lifestyle. There will also be different facilities and coffee tables with interesting features and design of these facilities. On connectivity, we also attach importance to it. We hope that the ECP precinct can be accessed from different directions. For the major access, there is one in Heng Fah Street, Watson Road, leading to Phase 1 of the ECP precinct, as well as an access on Oil Street. There is a lift tower cum staircase leading to the landscape platform, well, I mean the landscape garden. The east of the ECP precinct connects to the boardwalk of the IEC. Regarding interface between water and land, there are 4 sets of landing steps. One in Phase 1 of the ECP precinct, another in ECP precinct Phase 2, as well as other landing steps in different areas. This can better connect people to the water. Regarding the third phase, that is the enhancement of the adjoining Oil Street sitting out area, some 3,500 square meters. This is now being managed by the LCSD. As the Deputy Secretary said, upon the commissioning of Phase 2, there will be more footfall. We'd like to see a more coordinated design and integration in order to improve both connectivity as well as accessibility. There will be multi-purpose lawn area, pavilions, as well as seating benches to improve the experience of tourists or users coming to this project. The estimated project cost is some $895.6 million. That is the money of the day prices. We will seek funding approval from the Finance Committee for upgrading of the project. We hope that in Q1 2024, the relevant works will be commenced. Then, in Q4 of 2024, we expect that Phase 1 of the boardwalk of the IEC will be completed, providing connection to Phase 2 of the ECP precinct and the boardwalk. Then the landscape garden and other works of Phase 2 will also be conducted. We expect that in 2027 we will complete the entire project. In the course of the project, we make sure that there will be a continued passage along the harborfront while works is underway. This is our introduction. We welcome questions from members. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. It is now time for members to ask questions. I will first read out the order in which members will speak. Lee Chen Kung, Dr. Chowman Kong, Chan Kok Fung, Mr. Kok Wai Kung, Ms. Lam So Wai, Mr. Stanley Ms. Doreen Kong, and Mr. Andrew Lam, and Dr. Wendy Hong. 4 minutes, questions and answers included. Thank you. Lee Chen Kung, please. Thank you, Chair. People would often visit the East Coast Park for leisure. They may jog there or do Tai Chi there. I have a few questions. The Bureau has adopted an incremental approach in that they first connect the promenade and then they will enhance the promenade. I want to know how long it will take to complete connecting all the promenade. If you can't have all facilities completed, can you first open it up for public use? That's my first question. The second question is about additional facilities. Once the additional facilities are in place, there will be more people there. Should there be emergencies, can you still ensure emergency vehicular access? Also, we have some Night Vibes Hong Kong events. Will you reserve space and make sure there are public utilities installations in place so that such events can be held? I have another question. So you have a shared path that is for both cyclists and pedestrians. I have my concern about that because if it is a path to be shared by cyclists and pedestrians, it may be hard for them to use that, especially for those walking in the same direction. When there are children, if bicycles are to use that path, there may be dangers associated with that. How are you going to deal with that? Thank you. Well, we are indeed adopting the incremental approach. With the harbor front that is already open, one can go to North Point. So this project is very important in that it can connect the boardwalk in Causeway Bay all the way to the end. We believe we'll start our project in early 2024 and will complete it around the end of 2027. While we are constructing the facilities, we will reserve a part close to the sea and make it publicly available. So while the works are ongoing, people can still enjoy the harborfront space closest to the sea. We will take time to complete the works, of course, and we expect to have such works completed in 2027. In relation to the facilities in the ECP precinct, we have the multi-purpose lawn, the restaurant, and some refreshment kiosks. We believe diverse activities can be done in the area. We also have a community farm. We can perhaps let citizens or organizations hold activities in the space. When designing the facilities, we want to incorporate flexibility to make sure people can use it in diverse ways. As for the shared path for cyclists and pedestrians, I'll let my colleague answer that. Who is it going to be? Well, it would be me. Thank you. In relation to the EVA, emergency vehicular access, in phase 1, there is an EVA there. Like other parks, we have designed a path for ambulances to use. They can go from Hing Fat Street and Watson Road entrance and travel along the path in the park to the Extreme Park, for example, and the outdoor gym area. As for the part on All Street, there's also an access for vehicles, and if necessary, ambulances can take that access. As for the shared path for cyclists and pedestrians, Mr. Lee Chen-keung has a question about the safety and what about Night Vibes Hong Kong activities to be held in the area. Well, regarding the shared path for paths that are shared by cyclists and pedestrians, that idea is quite innovative. We'll monitor the use of such paths. In Central and Wenchai, there was a pilot scheme to see what will happen if a path is shared by both cyclists and pedestrians. Some smart systems are also used to see if there is any need to install railings or implement other safety measures. There has also been publicity campaign on the safety of shared paths, but of course this is relatively new. It would take time to make sure publicity reaches the public. In relation to the implementation, we'll monitor the results of the pilot scheme. Upon review, we can implement such experience in this shared path. We believe the pilot scheme will end in February next year. As for possible Night Vibes Hong Kong events, we do expect events being held in East Coast Park, especially in the multi-purpose lawn. In terms of the electricity, or the use of water to spray vapor into the air, there will be such installations on the lawn. And close to the outdoor gym area, that space is quite huge. We expect some organizations to potentially hold, say, Tai Chi classes there. Well, I believe what Mr. Lee said may relate to the concerns of other members. That's why I gave him more time. Next, Dr. Chow Man Kong, please. Well, I think the East Coast Park is located in a convenient location. I think the park has to be safe and fun, but it can't be similar to other parks. There should also be active and passive recreational facilities so that elderly persons can make use of the space as well. I can see that there will be an extreme park in the precinct. We have to note two things. It has to be closed between 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. for extreme parks. But can we extend the hours, because we know that young people may want to play for a bit longer. And we also have to think about flooding potential flooding in the extreme park, how will you make sure water is drained as soon as possible? You also said that the cost would be $895.6 million. Do you have a breakdown of the cost? Thank you. Thank you. Administration, please. Well, you said that the facilities have to be fun and safe as well as beautiful. That is, of course, what we want as well. And for the extreme park, we really have to strike a balance. Of course, we want the enthusiasts to play there, but we also have to think about the noise generated. We have to make sure the noise generated won't affect the residents nearby. Well, the East Coast Park will be open 24 hours a day, but we are planning to close the extreme park at 10 p.m. We do not want the noise generated to affect residents nearby during late hours. We have some noise mitigation measures. As the commissioner said, the Island Eastern Corridor will act as a noise barrier because the extreme park is under the corridor. We'll also try to mitigate the noise generated by making sure that the park will be closed by 10 p.m. But of course, we'll monitor the use of the extreme park in future and collect feedback. We'll make changes if necessary. Right now, for the enthusiasts of extreme sports, because there may not be that many venues that they can play in, we hope that this extreme park can offer a venue for them. Thank you. In relation to drainage, we have a drain in the low level, so we did take that into account when in our design. As for the breakdown of the cost, do you have a breakdown for that? Well, we have approximately 85% of the cost will be used in construction works, 15% will be used in others such as facilities and contingencies. The detailed breakdown will be provided when the proposal is submitted to the Public Works Subcommittee. Thank you. Next, Mr. Chan Hop Feng, please. Thank you, Chair. I think we all support beautifying the harborfront. I believe with the completion of the project, many people will want to visit the area, so I support the project. But I think we should be careful about the design, especially with the design park. Extreme park. We have never had examples of extreme parks being located close to residential buildings. For example, the one close to Belcher Bay, it's a skateboarding park, and residents have lodged complaints because when it's quiet, the noise can travel far. If you have much space in central harborfront because there are no residential buildings nearby, you can have a lot of extreme sports venues there. But when you have residential buildings nearby, you have to consider the needs of other residents. Now, I think that the harborfront space is, of course, beautiful. You have a lot of activities held there, but not a lot of them are commercial activities. When we look at the harborfront space, there aren't that many commercial outlets. We can perhaps have more commercial F&B outlets in the area to generate more revenue from the space. We can, of course, have some light refreshment or cafes, but it shouldn't be too noisy so that residents nearby won't be affected. We should make good use of the harborfront space. Right now, people are just jogging or playing sports there. Only small-scale activities or some large-scale activities are held there, but there are no commercial outlets. If you can have some cafes there, people will want to visit there and consume food and drinks there. So it's not just about an upgrading of the hardware, it's also about upgrading of the software. Also, who is going to manage the space? Is it Harbourfront Commission or the LCSD? If it's LCSD, I will be a bit concerned because the LCSD won't allow any events to be held there. Thank you.
提問。
Deputy Secretary, thank you, Mr. Chan. First, on the design of the extreme park, I understand what Mr. Chan was getting at. When people, well, I mean, there are some skateboarders in the evening which may cause nuisance. That is exactly why we have measures in place as well as the location in order to mitigate the noise so as not to cause noise nuisance to residents nearby. I agree with Mr. Chan. On restaurants and refreshment kiosks, in one of the slides just now, you can see one restaurant and some refreshment kiosks. For people going to ECP, some come from Fortress Hill Station and Tin House Station. There are a lot of different restaurants on the way, so we want the facilities in the ECP to complement with those outside the ECP in order to achieve the synergy effect. If members of the public would like to go to other restaurants, then we'd like to achieve synergy in this connection. On the management, the breakwater will be managed by the Harbourfront office, whereas the park will be managed by the LCSD. As mentioned, the management of the park is that the park is open around the clock, while the extreme park does have opening hours. The LCSD will manage the park well. Next, Mr. Kwok Wai Kang. Mr. Kwok is away. Ms. Lam So Wai, please. Thank you, Chairman. I believe the East Coast Park in North Point can be a new landmark in this area. I would suggest the administration incorporate more historical elements from Wan Chai and North Point, as well as Causeway Bay. Will you consider putting QR codes over there? Then we can turn the park into a tourist attraction covering culture, sports, and tourism elements, introducing some historical figures and places. Egg waffles are actually very popular snacks in North Point. It's like a little gourmet paradise in Hong Kong. Can we hold gourmet exhibitions in order to highlight this feature of Hong Kong? On recreational facilities, there are a lot of families on Hong Kong Island. On holidays, a lot of families come to ECP to spend their holidays. Will we consider adding more different facilities, such as parks for children and sand pool for children, to enhance the training of the 5 senses of children? Thank you, Chairman. Deputy Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Lam. Ms. Lam's suggestions are very good. We not only connect the facilities, and we also want to add features to each of these facilities. At the top of the agenda is Phase 2 of the ECP Precinct. But meanwhile, ECP Precinct Phase 1 and the Oil Street sitting out area will also be enhanced in parallel. So we want to add features to this park of 4.2 hectares. Of course, we will have to decide on the theme of the park. There may be different adjustments in different time periods, and we will definitely consider all these. Parents may bring children to ECP, and there are different facilities for children in ECP, and I will invite Commissioner for Harbourfront to introduce these facilities to us. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Lee. Thank you, Ms. Lam. Just a sec. There is an interactive water play feature with a fountain in this area. It is not the first of its kind. It also exists in in different parks. These facilities are actually very much well received, and the balance bikes are also very popular among children. Taking stock of our experience, we know that this track of balance bikes will also appeal to different children. Skateboarders and balance bikers can also enjoy this area. It is also for public enjoyment. The LCSD can consider holding more activities with district features and district themes. The LCSD can take the initiative to do so. Next, Mr. Stanley Ng. Thank you, Chairman. Let me declare, I live in North Point. I often go to ECP, so I have to stress we have long awaited a connected ECP. In 2020 or in 2019, when the first phase was commissioned, the areas next to it were left idle. There weren't many works going on, so time is of the essence. We've been waiting for too long. Hong Kongers have very limited living space. On average, our homes are actually 1.5 parking lots, and our homes are much smaller than those in Seoul and in Tokyo. We have the smaller home sizes. We also lack open space. We need more space for people to take a breather in outdoor areas. So I'd like the administration to enhance speed. Can you work faster? To the west, connecting to Victoria Park, the road is actually very narrow, especially that of Fire Station. The access is actually very narrow. Can we widen it? On the 1st of October, a lot of people were there to watch the fireworks. So many people went to the breakwater. There may be safety concerns when a lot of people are packed in that area. Like the fireworks display on National Day, how will you deal with the crowd management? A lot of dogs are seen in ECP as well as other pets. Sometimes pets are a kind of nuisance. Will you consider separating pets and other users? I'd like to see more reasonable planning. These are my main points. Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Stanley Ng. Mr. Ng not only gave us comments, but he also showed support by going to ECP quite often. In 2021, Phase 1 was open to the public. We wanted to provide more open space to the public. Indeed, some facilities are kind of fundamental. We do want to, first of all, provide these facilities. Afterwards, we will enhance or refine these facilities. We will carry out the works in 2024. 3.5 years later, in 2027, we aim to complete these works. Much as we want to expedite the project, there might be site restrictions or limitations. We do not want to close the entire ECP. We do want to open part of the ECP for public enjoyment. So, inevitably, we may have to cordon off some parts of the ECP to conduct some works. For the landscape platform, that is in CWB Eastern Portal, and we have to ensure the traffic in CWB Eastern Portal will not be affected. Otherwise, this will spawn a lot of different traffic issues, and this may be counterproductive. We have put in place parallel tendering exercise to obtain funding on the one hand, and on the other hand, the other procedures can take place in parallel so that we can expedite the project overall. About the issue relating to pets, all users of the park can also walk their pets inside the park, but then the pets have to be kept on leash. For the area in green, in Heng Fa Street, there will be a pet garden. If park users do not want to keep their pets on leash, they want to let their pets run around freely, there will be a cordon-off area for pets to run freely inside that area. They do not have to be on leash inside that area. We want to strike a balance by way of this. If pet owners want to allow their pets to run freely, there is also an area for these pets that will not cause any impact on other users of the park. Next, Mr. Rincon. Thank you, Chairman. I have a couple of questions. One, for some parts of the park, they will be elevated. But there are not a lot of places in Hong Kong have a garden near a trunk road. Are there any safety concerns for an elevated park which is not a playground or a ball court itself, but underneath that is a portal of the IEC? Some items may drop inadvertently. How can you actually make sure that the road users are safe? Have you anticipated the number of restaurant owners? Will there be more than one restaurant owner? I know that there is a community garden. How large will it be? Who will man the community garden? Who will be able to use it? Next, regarding the extreme park, while you're carrying out the design of the extreme park, have you consulted the relevant organizations or groups? That is to say, you have to make sure that the design of this extreme park matches the expectations of the users of the extreme park. Otherwise, it doesn't really serve the purpose. I understand that Phase 1 is very well received. The design is actually great. But then in the report, something has to be replaced. Why is that? Is that because you didn't think it through very carefully at the beginning?
Deputy Secretary, please. I'll answer the very last question about the design of Phase 1, where some facilities have to be replaced. Well, that is because, as we said earlier, we wanted to open a space for open for public use as soon as possible. That's why we only have some very basic facilities. We also have some selfie spots. We will retain them, but there are some facilities that are relatively basic. For example, some metal railings. We want to put in place more beautiful balustrades, glass balustrades there, to replace them. In Phase 2, we will have a relatively different design. We want to thus enhance Phase 1 to implement a more coordinated design, so people won't be able to tell clearly that, oh, this is Phase 1 and that is Phase 2. Mr. Ring Kong also asked about the extreme park. The design complies with the international standards. We have also consulted those who play the sports. They support us developing an extreme park. During the construction stage, we'll liaise with them to see if they have any comments for us. In relation to the community garden and F&B outlets, I'll let my colleague answer that. You also asked about road safety in relation to the landscape garden. We are actually very careful in our design. It is slightly above eastbound IEC. The good thing is people can see a great view from there, a great view of the harbor. But since it is very close to the eastbound lane, we will have some security staff members on site, and it is just a platform. No one is supposed to play, say, extreme sports or play ball there. It's just a viewing deck. But I do understand what Mr. Ring Kong said. If citizens are accidentally throw something down into eastbound, we'll see if we can implement some sort of safety measures or install railings in the area. But as I said earlier, we will have staff members on site, and if people are acting recklessly, they will be warned. Thank you, Mr. Ring Kong. In relation to F&B outlets, the restaurant is approximately 129 square meters, and the two refreshment kiosks are approximately 20 square meters. We believe there will be at least 3 operators for the 3 outlets, but of course we will have to look at the tenders. The community garden will be 500 square meters. It will be managed by the LCSD as with the other community farms in Hong Kong. Thank you. Next, Mr. Andrew Lam. I have 3 questions. In relation to the location of the extreme park, from the plan, I am not that worried about the noise issue because it will be under 2 roads. But in future, as there are residents nearby, I don't understand why you are selecting this spot where it is close to a residential development. If you put it near the ventilation building instead of Harbor Heights, there is a car park there that can act as a noise barrier as well. You may think it is not appropriate to move the park east, but there are hotels and offices there that can act as noise barriers as well. Well, I think there may not be problems identified in assessments, but I think you have to explain why you have selected that location where it is close to Harbor Heights. There's already noise generated by the carriageways. If you have selected a different spot, you do not have to implement the other measures, such as the making sure that the park is closed by 10. Another question that I have is with cost. We have $20,000 odd per square meter. It's quite expensive for a park, especially considering one part of the project involves enhancement only. And you have not explained how much is used for the enhancement of the Oil Street sitting out area. You have given some figures, but if you do not have a further breakdown, then please elaborate on that during the Public Works Subcommittee meeting. Is it because there are some lending steps that made the cost higher? Now, from Victoria Park Road going to the park, there is not much of a connection. You have to go through the electric office and the fire station. So basically you have to walk on the pavement. 2 to 3 months ago, I went to the area, but it was a little complicated. How can you make sure there is a shorter connection? When will you be able to complete the works there? Thank you. Deputy Secretary, please. Well, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Member, for your questions. In relation to the location of the Extreme Park, the ECP is located right under a carriageway, and there isn't much area under the carriageway. As you can see here, this is the carriageway, and that is a road under the tunnel protection. So we can't use the sea area, otherwise we will affect the operations of the tunnel. Now to the west, once it gets to somewhere close to Causeway Bay that is not part of the ECP, there is a vent shaft and a vent building, and the vent building will continue to be there. So we can't convert that part into a park, a part of the park. So, as I said earlier, there's not much space under the carriageway, considering there are residential buildings nearby. We will instead implement some noise mitigation measures. The carriageway will act as a noise barrier, and we will make sure the Extreme Park is closed by 10 so as to not cause any nuisance to residents nearby. Well, sorry, I am not asking you to construct an extreme park near the vent building. I am just asking you to explain why you are not constructing it in other different locations. And I think you need to explain to other people why you are choosing this spot and in relation to the cost. I believe you will have a detailed breakdown by the Public Works Subcommittee meeting. Well, I have something to add in relation to the cost, Chair. As there is an interface between this park and the tunnel protection, so we have to implement some additional measures. For example, the landscape platform connects to Oil Street, and we need to construct a lift tower. Why is it that we need a lift tower? Is that we have to make sure pedestrians won't get into the tunnel protection area accidentally. That's why they have to go up a level and get to the landscape platform through the walkway, the elevated walkway. Another reason for the high cost is that we have to conduct the work in different phases because we want to make sure some part of the park is still available for public use while the works are being done. If you look into it, you should be able to tell that the cost is roughly similar to other parks if we exclude the part about tunnel protection and the lift tower. In relation to the western end of the East Coast Park being connected to Causeway Bay, we'll see if we can do better. As I said earlier, this East Coast Park is key to connecting the harborfront. Well, Deputy Secretary, if you don't have answers just yet, that's fine, but I'll ask the same questions at the Public Works Subcommittee meeting. There is a temple nearby, and then there's another sitting out area, and there has all along not been a connection there. So please, if you don't have any answers today, that's fine, but you need to make sure you have answers then during the Public Works Subcommittee meeting. Well, I think for many questions asked by the Mr. Andrew Lam, you have to provide answers after meeting. He said earlier whether there is better connection. You have to think about it because I believe that is a concern of many members of the public. Well, I'm not a member of this panel. I would like to thank the chairman for letting me speak anyway. We can see that the harborfront of the northern shore of Hong Kong Island has seen much improvement, so I do appreciate the government's efforts. But often when there is much utilization, it has to undergo repair. But from what I observe, it takes much time to repair those, at least 1 to 2 weeks. So the government should think about that. Now, there are also benches before Victoria Harbour that are in dilapidated condition. You should also think about improving them. Apart from repairs, about the cycle track. There's also a cycle track near the boardwalk. Will there be connection between the two cycle tracks. This is relatively special because we do not have many cycle tracks on Hong Kong Island. If there is connection, that would be ideal. I can see that there is a water play feature, or there are water play features, but I can see that it's on the ground. Is it related to the sea in any way, or is it just like a fountain? Well, because from the plan I can see that it's on the shore, so I want to know what it is specifically. Now, many people went to the East Coast Park to watch the fireworks display, but it may be dangerous because without railings, when crowds are there, people may fall into the sea. Also, have you calculated the capacity of the deck, whether it can hold that many people in events? Thank you.
You can get.
Deputy Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Kwok. On a more compressed timeline, we will liaise with the LCSD in the hope of compressing the maintenance timeline. About the breakwater and footfall and crowd management, we will keep in view the situation. In fact, not only the breakwater, we understand that on the day of fireworks displays, there were a lot of various crowd management measures put in place to ensure the safety of the park users. That is applicable to ECP as well. About the deck, there are engineering calculations. But when a lot of people gather over there are also concerns about crowd management. On days such as fireworks displays, we will consider whether crowd management measures have to be put in place. In relation to fountain, I will invite my colleague, Ms. Lee, to take the question. Thank you, Chairman. The share path will connect to the boardwalk under the IEC. To the east, it will connect to the boardwalk under the IEC, and there will also be a shared path for cyclists and pedestrians. In relation to the interactive water play feature, on the ground, there will be nozzles spraying water like a fountain instead of the yellow ducks in Causeway Bay. Can I ask further, Chairman? Well, you can ask in the second round. Dr. Wendy Hong has waited for a long time. Dr. Wendy Hong. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask about the maintenance of the facilities in Phase 1, which was opened in September 2021. There are maintenance works, and I'd like to know about the cost of the maintenance. Some facilities are still very new. During construction, works have been hindered as well. Is it necessary to carry out these maintenance works? The metal railings have been replaced with glass balustrades. There are different weather conditions such as Typhoon Mangkhut and so on. Are glass balustrades suitable? Given the fact that there are extreme weather conditions recently. Next, on the design of the Extreme Park, the new Extreme Park will comply with international standards. In Hong Kong, there are already 5 extreme parks. For beginners and professional enthusiasts, there are children of different ages. Are there any safety concerns? Have we seen any accidents in these venues? Deputy Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Member, for your questions. First of all, on Phase 1 of ECP, some facilities therein are actually very pretty. they are popular among users of the park, we will keep these facilities in situ, so they will not go down the drain. We are not going to waste them, but some facilities will be replaced, as Mr. Kwok mentioned. We may have to compress the timeline as part of the park will be opened for public enjoyment. For phase 1 of ECP, while the facilities are being maintained, that will take place in 2027, and the facilities will have been used for some time. We are not maintaining these facilities or replacing them for the sake of it. If they are still pretty, we will keep them, but then we only need to maintain them. Members asked about the safety of glass balustrades. Of course, safety is our top priority. Apart from the design, we also care about safety. So rest assured, we will make sure that these glass facilities will be very safe. For the construction cost, the maintenance cost of phase 1, what is the cost? The cost of phase 1 in relation to maintenance was actually kept at a minimum, so it didn't come to electrical. The costs were actually very low. Well, Deputy Secretary, you can include the relevant information about maintenance of the projects as well as the enhancement. You can provide this information to us. Next, Mr. Louis Long will speak for the first time. Members are interested in this project. This is close to the heart of members. We have overrun, but I don't want to affect the agenda items afterwards. So after Mr. Louis Long asks, there are 2 other members, including Mr. Chen and Ms. Doreen Kong. They may want to ask, they want to ask in the second round. I will give them 2 minutes each. I hope to bring this agenda item to a close by 4 p.m. Mr. Louis Long, please. Thank you, Chairman. I will be brief. I speak in support of this project, but I heard from some members and the administration's reply. I'd like to give the administration a comment. Of course, we need to strike a balance between design and safety. But we do need to make the facilities pretty. We shouldn't just make them safe at the expense of a pretty design. For some hiking trails, they often lack a fence. After fences or railings are constructed, they actually don't mesh well with the environment. After the administration hears from us, you understand that there are safety concerns or concerns over crowd management. Putting in place some railings or fences may affect the overall layout or design of the facilities. And a reply, Deputy Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Louis Long. In fact, we do want to incorporate the design of inclusiveness in coastal parks. But then, in some cases, fences or railings may have to be constructed in order to provide better safety for the elderly. I believe the ASD will strike a balance between safety and design. Mr. Louis Long, no follow-up? No follow-up. Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Chen Hock-Fong, 2 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to follow up on the extreme park. The Deputy Secretary seldom takes part in extreme sports, I believe. Well, usually, extreme sports will not finish at 10 p.m. They often start only after 10 p.m. If the extreme park is to close at 10 p.m., well, I think not a lot of people will use the extreme park. You may have to look at what time extreme sports enthusiasts will go to the extreme park. I am clear that Beltridge Bay will only be active after 10 p.m. If the park is going to close at 10 p.m., then it's not going to be used by a lot of people. I'm afraid that this will go down the drain. And a restaurant and 2 refreshment kiosks will be wasted, I think. Well, to be exact, 1 restaurant and 2 refreshment kiosks. I suggest you turn the extreme park into restaurants and other refreshment kiosks. This will be better to the harborfront as a whole. Well, the fact that we put the extreme park in this location, we have actually considered different possibilities and cases. We want to provide convenience to extreme sports enthusiasts. We'd also like to have different measures to ensure the safety of the users as well as some noise abatement measures. We do need to strike a balance. We will liaise with the extreme sports enthusiasts, and we will do so. For ECP, there are actually a lot of restaurants in the vicinity. In the park, there are also some catering venues. That is 1 restaurant and 2 refreshment kiosks. We hope to provide some places for park users in order to achieve synergy. In addition, can you also tell us noise assessments in different time periods of the day? In the evening, the noise generated by the vehicles on the IEC will be less. If you have scientific figures, this will do you good in the course of implementation. You will be in a better position to make assessment. Next, Ms. Doreen Kong. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask about the elevator park. For this elevator park alone, do you have the construction cost for it? I'd like to look at the cost effectiveness and the safety concern. For elevated parks, there are fewer tourists or park users. For those elevated parks in Tsim Sha Tsui, actually few park users go there. For the area beneath it, there are actually some parks. For such a long shoreline, do you really need to construct some elevated parks? Thank you, Ms. Doreen Kong. For the landscape platform, we do identify an opportunity, and that is a CWBism portal. No park users can access that area. That area is quite large itself, so we think that we can construct a landscape garden for the public to enjoy the harborfront. And it is actually a major component of ECP. It is quite a core element of ECP, and that is why we thought we could incorporate it into the entire project. Well, it's actually impossible for us to give you a breakdown of each and every single component of the project, but then in the PWSC meeting, we will be able to give you a breakdown of the project. But we cannot give you the construction cost of each and every single component. I'll ask further in the PWSC meeting. ECP is quite large, and I believe you can give us the construction cost of different components, including the lift tower. If possible, you can provide the relevant information to us after the meeting, and we have the information you can provide to us as soon as possible. So in the PWSC, during the discussion, we will be able to get the information soon enough. Of course, for very small components, you may not be able to provide the information to us. For the major components, however, you should be able to give us a breakdown of the construction cost. It is a major component. So I hope the Deputy Secretary can prepare the relevant information. For other information, I hope you can give us the information after the meeting as early as possible. Hearing from members, I think members seem to be supportive of this project, but members seek clarifications on some details. Do members support to submit the PWP item to the PWSC for discussion? Mr. Michael Tin, do you support it? Yes. Let us bring this agenda item to a close. Thank you, officials. We will move on to the next agenda item. Item number 5.
WFO.
PWP Item number 374, WF Part, Risk-Based Improvement of Large Diameter Water Main Stage 1A. Let's invite the representatives of the administration to come inside the conference room. This is also a funding proposal. Again, I remind members that in accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure, members should disclose the nature of any direct or indirect pecuniary interests relating to the item before they speak on the item. Members who wish to ask questions, please press the Request to Speak button now. Welcome, representatives of the administration. I'll first invite representatives to brief members on the paper. Thank you, Chair. Right now, there are 8,400 kilometers of water mains in Hong Kong. Between 2000 and 2015, we have replaced approximately 3,000 kilometers of water mains. We have implemented a risk-based asset management strategy since 2015 to set priorities for replacing or rehabilitating pipes to maintain a stable water supply. Since 2015, we have done 140 kilometers of water mains. These are water mains of relatively small diameter. That's why we have used the Capital Works Program Category D items to deal with such works. However, for the large diameter water mains, they have a high cost. That's why we're applying for funding here. There are some large diameter water mains that have to be rehabilitated. In Stage 1A, will improve approximately 20 kilometers of the water mains. I'll now let my colleague to give a presentation on the item. Good afternoon, members. I'll now brief members on our proposal in relation to PWP item number 374 WF Part in relation to the risk-based improvement of large diameter water main Stage 1A. Hong Kong's freshwater and salt water will be conveyed via water pipes. There is reduced pipe strength due to aging. Between 2000 and 2015, we have implemented a territory-wide water mains replacement and rehabilitation program. 3,000 kilometers of 8 water mains with a 30-year history have been improved. Since 2015, we have implemented a risk-based asset management strategy for water mains. We have introduced other factors in the risk assessment, including conditions, consequence of bursts and leaks. And we have prioritized improving the higher risk pipe sections. What does risk mean? That is the burst cases and leakage rates, as well as the consequences of such bursts and leaks. There are different factors, including the age, condition, materials, and the surrounding environment. And the consequence of bursts and leaks would include the consequences to users and facilities such as hospitals. We will assign a rating in the risk assessment, and then we'll identify some higher risk pipes, and then we'll prioritize the improvement of the higher risk pipes. If there is a high risk of a pipe bursting or leaking, and if the consequence of the burst and leak is quite high, we'll prioritize the improvement of such pipe. We have implemented the risk-based strategy. As the Secretary said, as my colleague said earlier, with the small diameter water mains, we have implemented repairs via the Capital Works program. But with larger diameter water mains, it's different. We have a significant decrease of burst cases and leakage rates. For burst cases, we have a decrease from 2,500 in 2000 to 40 in 2022, and the leakage rates have decreased significantly as well, from 25% to 14.4%. With larger diameter water mains, we often have to lay temporary water mains to maintain a stable water supply. That's why there is a higher cost, and it will take longer to implement such works. We will apply, therefore, to the Legislative Council for funding. We expect to replace or rehabilitate 70 kilometers of water mains in the next 10 years in two stages, that is Stage 1A and Stage 2A. In Stage 1A, a total of about 20 kilometers of large diameter water mains in 4 districts will be replaced, and in Stage 1B, it will be approximately 50 kilometers. We have conducted various assessments such as traffic impact assessment, preliminary environmental review, and so on. Our project does not require any acquisition of private land. We have consulted various district councils such as the Saikong, Shimshuipo, Tunmun, and Eastern District Councils and the relevant committees, and they all support the proposal. With the funding in place, we will start the works, and we expect the project to be completed in phases within 4 to 6 years. We'll only award the contract once we have received approval for funding. We will apply for funding for the next stage as soon as possible. Stage 1A would need $2.1624 billion in money for the day prices. Thank you, Chairman. We hope that members will support our proposal. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Locke. Well, I'll first read out the order in which members will speak. First, Mr. Michael Tian, Mr. Chan Hockfeng, Ms. Lam So-wai, Mr. Lam Chen-kung, Mr. Kenneth Lau, Mr. Tan Ka-piu, Dr. Wendy Hong, Mr. Andrew Lam, Mr. Louis Long. 3 minutes per person, questions and answers included. Thank you. Mr. Michael Tian, please. Well, from the paper, it is said that since 2000, various measures have been implemented, and the birth cases has decreased from 2,500 in 2000 to 40 in 2022. That is quite a significant. That seems very effective. thus I most definitely have to support your proposal. But the cost is quite high, being $2.2 billion. You would need pumping of water to maintain water supply, and you said that temporary water mains would have to be laid when works are being undergone. Well, I want to ask, does this figure, the 2 billion figure, include the laying of the temporary mains or the repair of the mains? There's no detailed breakdown. I'm worried that more of that cost would go into the laying of temporary water mains. Well, if that is indeed the case, then I will not support the proposal. So can the administration give a breakdown of that, of the figure? Now, you said that there is a water intelligent network. So you're adopting technologies to identify leakage in pipes. I want to ask, how long will the works take specifically? For the pipe section in Tunmun, it would often burst. It is essentially a black spot. Does the water intelligent network apply there? If it is applicable there, why such leakage is not detected? If not, why is water intelligent network not used there? My next question is related to burst cases. It is often due to water pressure that there is a burst pipe. Will there be technologies to monitor the changes in water pressure in pipes, just like smart watches with our bodies? Can you adopt such technologies? Thank you. Well, for the first part in relation to the temporary water mains, well, I will have to elaborate on that. As Mr. Michael Tian said, it's just like what happens with the aorta. We must maintain the water supply through the laying of water mains. It's just like with what you do with cardiovascular surgery. It takes up approximately 7 to 8% of the figure for the laying of temporary water mains, but that is, of course, necessary. Otherwise, we can't maintain a stable water supply. We expect water intelligent network to be completed in 2025. Right now, we have covered 1,000 odd sections, and we will have it applied to Tunmun, but it will only be completed in Q1 of 2025. As Mr. Michael Tian said, the network can monitor the water pressure and capacity, but can you say specifically when and where that burst will take place? There are no technologies in place that can do that, but we've been liaising with higher education institutions to see if we have any technologies that can provide more accurate predictions in relation to bursts and leaks. Well, I have a quick follow-up question. So you are monitoring the water pressure. So apart from water pressure, another problem that often causes bursts would be rusting. So is there no way for you to identify rusting in pipes right now? Well, I'll let my colleague from the WSD to give supplementary information on that. Well, we can predict when pipes will leak if we see rusting on the outer pipe, but there may be some strength or the pipes may deform. Through the materials used, we can predict approximately when that pipe will go bad. So the Polytechnic University is thinking about laying optical fiber cables to monitor this situation. They should be able to identify the strength in pipes as well. So we are talking to the PWP to see if they can tune their parameters to do that. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Chen Hao-feng. Thank you, Chairman. Of course, I do support this PWP item. There are some aging water mains, but in my district, there are 2 places where there are frequent water mains accidents, but they were not covered. 5 water burst incidents took place in Central and Western District. In the Southern District, for main trunk roads, there were 2 water mains bursts. Shouldn't these places be accorded with higher priority? But these places are under Stage 1B. You are taking a risk-based approach, but I don't understand why the priority wasn't given to the districts I mentioned. The Central and Western districts often see water bursts or water main bursts. Water and soil are also some factors causing water mains bursts. Once there are water mains bursts, that may cause trouble to a district. Whenever you replace some sections of the water mains, that would cause bursts to other sections of the same water mains. Probably that is due to different pressure points. Have you conducted any assessment to explore how you can minimize water mains bursts elsewhere? Colleagues from the Water Supplies Department WSD will give you a more detailed answer in a moment. We have been replacing and rehabilitating water mains program. We have completed 140 kilometers or so, and we are talking about large diameter water mains. In our risk assessment, we can first cope with the large diameter water mains of 20 kilometers, then we will deal with the remaining 50 kilometers of the large diameter water mains. We don't have the relevant technologies as yet, but we do have the optic fiber technology to detect any movement of the water mains. That is to detect when the water mains will burst. Let me invite the WSD colleague to give you more details in this regard. Mr. Chen. Thank you, Mr. Chen Hao-feng. After we have improved some sections of the water mains that may lead to bursts in other sections of the water mains, I don't rule out this possibility, but in our entire planning, from the age of the water mains or from the circumstances, we do give them scores. If the quality or the circumstances are quite poor, then we will incorporate in the risk-based approach. But water mains do change over time. We don't rule out this possibility, but we will strive to improve the program. Ms. Lam So-wai. I speak in support of this program in Changkwon-o and Sai-kung. I still remember back in 2019, there was sort of yellow water in a lot of different housing estates. And after the replacement of the large diameter water mains, the incidents about yellow water have not been seen afterwards. Actually, can we compress a timeline of 4 years to 6 years? Changkwon-o Town Center, Po Yap Road, Po Hong Road, Wanpo Road. These are main trunk roads in Changkwon-o, including Changkwon-o Crossbait Link. The construction is near these main trunk roads. I am concerned whether the traffic will be impacted on. During construction, will it disseminate information about traffic jams so that users of the road will be informed of the traffic conditions? How long do you expect these newly laid water mains to be used? These water mains are supposedly to be used for 2 to 3 decades. What is the lifespan of these water mains? What is your expectation? Are there any devices monitoring the quality of the fresh water? Are there any tools? As the construction works take place near schools, unless you start the construction works in the small hours of the day, the schools are near private housing estates. Will there be noise abatement measures to complement with the construction works? These are my questions. Thank you. On the lifespan of the water mains and the monitoring of the water quality, I will invite the WSD colleagues to take these questions. For the large diameter water mains, asphalt laying will be involved. We will consider how we can compress a timeline of 4 to 6 years. But why does it take so long? That is exactly due to the reason mentioned by Ms. Lam. We cannot impact on traffic. We need to choose appropriate time slots to carry out the construction works. Some 30% of the 20 kilometers will be conducted by way of trenchless techniques in order to mitigate the traffic impact. We will liaise with the EPD, Environmental Protection Department, in order not to cause nuisance to residents nearby. We will also have a task group to liaise with residents. They can give us feedback so that we can alter our method of construction. Regarding lifespan and the monitoring of water quality, I will invite WSD colleague to take these questions. Mr. Chan, thank you, member. If the construction works are carried out well, the lifespan can be as long as 5 to 6 decades. Inside the water mains, there are protection layers. They are more durable. They will not peel off, or they are less likely to peel off. On whether we will add water quality monitoring devices, so far we don't have this kind of technologies, but then we are studying whether we can, in some places, detect the quality of water to check the health of the water mains. But we will not install these devices yet, as this kind of technology has not yet matured. Next, Mr. Lee Chen-kang. Thank you, Chairman. With the efforts of WSD colleagues, from 2,500 water burst cases, it plummeted to 40 cases in 2022. These figures are due to the concerted efforts of different departments. This is great. There is input of monetary resources, manpower, as well as technology. Can the administration do more on publicity so that the public will know that the administration has actually done a lot in this connection, especially on the quality of fresh water? It is an important asset, and this is an area you do very well. Will you consider enhancing publicity? I believe the use of Wind Water Intelligence Network can help you identify any possible leakage or burst of water mains. As member mentioned, there are a lot of technologies in mainland China, including drone inspection, drone exploration, using infrared, ultrasonic waves to detect water mains leakage, or using visual information feedback to detect the aging condition or defect of water mains, not least large diameter water mains. And in addition, we will also use robots or other tools like balls to detect water bursts, water mains bursts or leaks. Will you adopt more advanced technologies to detect possible water main leaks? In the case of large diameter water mains, there are a lot of districts in Hong Kong where water mains have aged. There are a lot of places where there are many pedestrians and vehicles, but then the roads are narrow, just like Repulse Bay, Stanley, mid-levels. You have to address the problem. You cannot just scratch the surface of the problem. Do you have any fallback plan to deal with water mains leakage problems? Especially underground, there are optical fibers or other pipes such as drainage or fire services departments. How are you going to deal with that? Thank you, Mr. Lee. We will take your question on board. We will enhance publicity in this connection. Technology-wise, we are more than happy to deploy new technologies, such as we mentioned, optical fiber in partnership with Poly University. We are happy to explore more advanced technologies. We will also get in touch with different R&D organizations. Basically, we have to deal with traffic impacts. If we, where technologies do not permit, we will use trenchless techniques in order to minimize impact on traffic. Next, Mr. Kenneth Lau. Thank you, Chairman. Hong Kong has a total of 8,400 km of water main assets, be they long or short. That is very long. That is equal to 2 round trips from Hong Kong to Beijing. In principle, I do support this project, despite the hefty price tag. Water mains have a lifespan of 6 decades, but then Dongjiang Water has provided water to us for 59 years. Livelihood issues are also close to my heart. Black rainstorm are common nowadays, and this project will take 4 to 6 decades, 4 to 6 years in phases. If there are black rainstorm warning during the construction or the project, will there be any measures in place in order not to affect the livelihood of citizens? That concerns the management of the construction sites. I will invite the WSD to take these questions. Mr. Chan, please. Thank you. If we need to if we need to open cut the road to create trenches on the roads, that may lead to problems. There are a lot of different warnings issued by the Hong Kong Observatory about typhoons or rainstorms. When we are aware of such warnings, we will take precautionary measures to guard against any possible impact. For water mains of 8,000 odd kilometers, is there any timeline? That is, when will you be able to replace all water mains? 3,000 kilometers out of the 8,400 kilometers have already been replaced by 2022. We do not have to carry out major projects to replace these water mains. We take a risk-based approach, such as consequences resulting from the bursts or leaks, so we do not use a specific timeline. We keep in view the situation. When we identify a need to do so, we will minimize the likelihood of water bursts or leaks. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Tan Ka-Pu. Thank you, Chair. Now, you have selected 3 districts. I'm not sure if you are only picking one district out of Hong Kong Island, Kowloon, and New Territories. So if the district is included for some candidates in the election, they can claim that freshwater safety is guaranteed. But then it may cause certain nuisance in relation to traffic. For the districts that are not included, burst incidents may happen there. How can they explain about the situation? So can you talk about why you selected these 4 districts in particular? I also want to ask how many among the 8,400 kilometers would be large diameter water mains? Now, some water mains may not be of large diameter originally. They may have expanded in future. Are they included in the 2 billion figure? Well, as for why the 4 districts are selected, we have assessed the risk based on the material of the pipe, whether the road section is busy, the surrounding environment, for example, the soil, and the consequences for major roads or roads close to hospitals. We have considered all these factors and assigned a score, and then we'll identify those of high risk. Well, whether we are doing the pipes in this stage is another matter. We, of course, want to make sure that fresh water is safe. Well, they said over 1,000 kilometers would be large diameter water mains, according to my WSE colleagues. We are to deal with 70 kilometers in the next 10 years, and 20 kilometers would be dealt with in stage 1A. For the adjoining pipes, they may be less than 600 millimeters in diameter, but we have the major pipes to be dealt with are of 600 millimeters or above. Well, in relation to the expansion of the pipes, would that happen? Well, actually, that will not be the case. Water pipes are fixed in size. We will not change the size recklessly. Thank you. Dr. Wendy Hong, please. I have 2 questions. I want to ask about the stage completion of the project. It is said that 70 kilometers will have to be replaced in the next 10 years, and in stage 1A, 20 kilometers will be replaced or rehabilitated, and in stage 2, it would be 50 kilometers. That is a great difference between the 2 stages. How can they make sure 50 kilometers can be completed in the following years after stage 1A? And if stage 1A takes $2 billion, stage 1B may cost even more. So can you elaborate on the cost? In stage 1A, 4 districts are selected: Sai Kung, Eastern, Shamshui-Po, and Tuen Mun. They are scattered geographically. If you are conducting works in the same area, you should be able to minimize the cost. So why are you having works in scattered areas? I can see that in a paper submitted by the WSD in May that we have 1,800 areas under monitoring by the Water Intelligence Network. In total, there are 2,400 odd areas. Did the WSD conduct a review on the performance of the Water Intelligence Network? How effective is the network in the analysis of data? Thank you. Well, and why is it that 20 kilometers are done in stage 1A and 50 kilometers in stage 1B? That is because we are adopting a risk-based management strategy. We will take approximately 5 years for each stage, so that is not a disproportionate allocation. And works may be undertaken in an overlap manner. The factor that we considered mainly was traffic. If the road section is really busy, we may have to wait until the road section is less busy to conduct such works. In relation to Water Intelligence Network, we can identify leaking pipes to have such pipes replaced or rehabilitated as soon as possible. Combine the network with the risk-based management strategy. As I said earlier, there has been significant decreases in burst cases and leakage as a result. Thank you. Next, Mr. Andrew Lam. Well, of course, we have to replace old stuff. I want to ask about the figures provided. It is said that 20 kilometers have to be replaced or rehabilitated. How many of that are located in busy road sections? Is it all of them? And approximately 30% of them would have the trenchless method adopted. Is it because there are technical problems or cost concerns that you are not using trenchless method for the remaining 70%? If you are using trenchless method for all of the works, how much would the cost be? Well, if we are adopting the trenchless method for all pipe sections, well, I'm not sure if the WSC has such figures because we did not assume that all pipe sections will be done using the trenchless method. In fact, with the major roads, 30% of the roads will be busy road sections, and those we will use the trenchless method. We are not only thinking about the cost when we choose which sections to use the trenchless method. We considered the traffic condition when we decided to use the trenchless method. I'll let the WSD colleagues give supplementary information. We would normally adopt the open cut excavation method for pipe works. For trenchless methods, there are two technologies. One would be rehabilitation works, that is putting a pipe outside of the original pipe. And we can have another tree well for another method. But the problem with that is if we have to conduct repairs, it is very difficult. If you have a layer around the small intestine with it leaking, it will still be a problem. And for some pipes, they are quite narrow. They only barely accommodate the needs of the district. If we have to make the pipe smaller, it would be hard. With the other method, it is also very difficult to conduct repairs because we need to add another layer on the pipe as well. So having considered the traffic conditions, we have decided to use open cut excavation method for the remaining 70%. Do you have any figures? Well, we believe the trenchless method would cost a lot more, but we don't know by how much at this moment. Well, we have derived the estimates with the method adopted in mind. So we did not consider adopting the trenchless method in the less busy road sections. We hope members would understand that. Well, I would understand if the method is inappropriate, then you wouldn't consider that in your estimates. So I apologize, Mr. Andrew Lam. You may not get your answer for that. Next, Mr. Louis Long. I have 2 questions, Chair. The department said they have adopted a risk-based strategy in assigning priorities. So can I understand that that means the 4 districts selected are of higher priority compared to the 14 remaining districts? That's my first question. The second question is, apart from replacing pipes, you would rehabilitate pipes. The WSD did give some information on that earlier, but I want to know more. What are your criteria? Under what conditions would you have the pipe replaced? Under what conditions would you have the pipe rehabilitated? Thank you, Deputy Secretary. Undersecretary, please. We do think the 4 districts are of higher probability, but I must emphasize the factors considered are not just like how often they would have burst cases, and we would consider other risk factors as well. If we need to adopt the trenchless method, we will need to construct a well and make sure water can be pumped through. For rehabilitation, we will have a plastic layer wrapped around the original pipe. So we will look at the condition of the pipe before deciding on whether to replace or rehabilitate the pipe. Thank you. I just want to confirm my understanding is correct. If it has to be replaced, you will replace it. If you can't have it replaced, you will rehabilitate the pipe. That's correct. I have no further follow-up. Thank you. Next, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Thank you, Chair. I heard other members praise the administration of the management of water mains, and from the figures mentioned in the paper, the burst cases have decreased from 2,500 in 2000 to 40 in 2022. That is indeed quite impressive. And leaking of fresh water mains has also decreased from 25% to around 14.4%. Of course, we want less of such burst or leaking cases because it would be a waste of fresh water. But right now, I do appreciate the government's efforts. Members have asked quite a lot of questions. I will not repeat them. From what was said by the administration, my concern is that for the new development areas, will the administration have more comprehensive policy? For example, the Central Islands. Can you make sure there will be, like, should there be any problems with the central water supply? You can conduct repairs in time and you can enhance the monitoring of the water network in the new development areas to make sure there aren't as many burst and leak cases. Thank you, Chair.
其實咧，
Undersecretary, please. Thank you, Dr. Low, for your comments on the leakage rate. We will strive for a further decrease. We will not be complacent. We aim at 10% in 2030. Indeed, not only in the central waters, for BC carriageways, we will use CUT. That is for the convenience of repair. For repair, maintenance, it will be easier for us to detect these possible problems. We should be forward-looking. We also need to enhance publicity. What is your plan to make improvements, or what kind of new technologies will you use? You need to let the public know. Chairman, I speak in support of the risk-based improvement of large diameter water mains. All members in the first round have already spoken. Ms. Lam So I would like to speak in the second round. 2 minutes. Ms. Lam. Thank you, Chairman. In early September, there were typhoons, black rainstorm in Chankono, Saigon, especially Wanpo Road. There were serious flooding problems. I'd like to ask the administration, while laying underground water mains, will you consider improving drainage pipes or putting in place flood prevention works in order to cope with the flooding problems arising from rainstorm or downpours? We are talking about large diameter water mains, and this system is different from the drainage system. We have said, however, that we will accord priority to different drainage projects in order to minimize impact or the risk of water mains bursts in extreme weather. Despite different systems, we are still working very hard. On this agenda item, all members have already expressed their views to members' support to submit this project to the PWSC. For consideration. Yes, all members agree. Now let us move on to the next agenda item. Next agenda item, lifts and escalators ordinance Cap 618, commencement notice under Section 24 of Schedule 16 in respect of recognized qualifications for registered lift escalator engineers. Let us invite the administration to come in. Members who would like to ask questions, please press the button to request to speak.
就好請呢個
First of all, let us welcome government officials. Before they walk us through the papers, let me extend the meeting today by a maximum of 15 minutes. The administration will walk us through the papers. There are PowerPoint slides. Undersecretary, please. I will be brief. Thank you, Chairman. This is about the uplift of the qualification requirements for becoming registered lift escalator engineers. The LEO Lift and Escalators Ordinance came into operation on the 17th of December 2012. We had a roadmap back then about the uplift of the qualification requirements. We'd like to implement the uplift of the qualification requirements. In Q1 of 2024, we would like to submit a commencement notice to the Legislative Council by way of negative vetting. Now, I'd like to invite my colleagues to walk members through the contents of the relevant papers. Mr. Lau Li-Ki. Thank you, Chairman. I will brief members on Lifts and Escalators Ordinance Cap 618 commencement notice under Section 24 of Schedule 16 in respect of recognized qualifications for registered lift escalator engineers. This is to repeal the qualification requirement of holding a bachelor's degree in relevant engineering discipline or equivalent with 4 years of relevant working experience. The LEO came into operation in December 2012. That is to enhance the safety level of lifts and escalators in Hong Kong. The legislative intent is to raise the qualification requirements for becoming registered lift and escalator engineers. There are two factors. One, the requirements should be on par with those for the registered professionals under legislation governing building safety. One example is Building Ordinance Registered Professional Engineer. Well, I mean the authorized personnel. We require the personnel should be Registered Professional Engineer, RPE, with relevant work experience. Second, we will have to use a progressive approach to ensure in the course of the uplift of the qualification requirements there will be sufficient manpower and the in-service practitioners will not be affected in terms of their livelihood. So, in the process, we have already implemented two transitional arrangements. For the two transitional arrangements and the ultimate qualification requirements for registration, there are three pathways in total for practitioners to obtain their qualifications. Pathway 1, that is the first transitional arrangement, to allow applicants with a higher diploma, higher certificate, or an equivalent academic qualification with 5 years of experience to obtain the professional qualification. Pathway number 2, that is the second transitional arrangement, to allow the applicants with a bachelor degree with 4 years of work experience to obtain the professional qualification. Pathway 3, that is the ultimate qualification requirements for registration. The applicant must be a registered professional engineer in the relevant discipline with at least 2 years of work experience in lift or escalator works. They need these qualification requirements in order to register. In-service practitioners of the first and the second transitional arrangements will have to take a dedicated written examinations to satisfy the requirements. All three pathways require the practitioners to have a relevant interview with the EMSD Electrical and Mechanical Services Department. They have to pass the interview in order to be able to register successfully. Considering the increase in the qualifications in the sector, we came back to the development panel. We agree that by way of a commencement notice, in 2018, the first transition arrangement was repealed. In-service practitioners can still use the second transitional arrangement or the ultimate qualification requirements to obtain the qualification requirements for registered lift or escalator engineers. In 2021, we also reviewed the LEO, which came into operation 10 years ago. We have already tapped the pulse of the sector. We have heeded their views. We recommend repealing this arrangement on the 31st of December 2027. These are our arguments. We have already factored in the manpower situation of the trade. The main responsibilities are to examine lifts and escalators. There are some 240 registered lift or escalator engineers performing such examination works. In the past 12 months, they have examined some 95,000 lifts or escalators, and they have also issued 95,000 or 5,000 safety certificates. They spend half a day on the examination work. In the remaining time of the day, they perform administrative, managerial, or project planning work. There is sufficient manpower to cope with the need of the examination work. We have already considered the additional workload that may arise as a result of the new lifts or escalators. About the distribution of age, every year we need a total of 12 new registered lift or escalator engineers to replenish the talent pool. This way we can meet the demand successfully. In June this year, we have conducted a survey with the contractors. We found that a total of 100 in-service practitioners have already attained a bachelor degree. In the coming 4 years, they can accumulate sufficient work experience in order to be able to register as a registered lift or escalator engineer. At present, we have sufficient manpower. In the long term, we have also considered, after the uplift of qualification requirements and the introduction of registered lift or escalator engineers, the professional status and image as well as the job prospect will also be enhanced. So, teenagers or youngsters will be attracted to join the trade, so there wouldn't be any impact on manpower. Regarding the impact on in-service practitioners, we'd like to inform members that for practitioners who have already registered as a registered lift or escalator engineer, their qualifications will not be affected after the repeal of the first transitional arrangement. They can still apply for a renewal of their license or professional qualification. For students at universities majoring in the relevant engineering discipline, if they are interested in joining the registered lift and escalator engineering discipline, we already informed these students in July 2022 and September 2023. We have already informed them of the latest requirements so that they can plan their career well. For those who have already obtained a bachelor's degree but do not have sufficient work experience, the trade has given us the view that they hope that the government will give them sufficient time to prepare for the requirements. They generally support the implementation of the ultimate qualification requirements. In response to the demand from the trade, we recommend that by way of commencement notice in late 2027, the transitional arrangement will take place in late 2027. The purpose is to give these students sufficient time to meet the relevant requirement, that is to obtain the 4 years of work experience. By way of this, new students will also have sufficient time to accumulate work experience of 4 years until 2027. So this will not cause any impact on new students. Since 2021, there have been consultations with the trade. In August 2022, we have already consulted stakeholders, unions, and so on. And we have solicited the support of different stakeholders. On the 30th of September 2022, we have also consulted the Lift and Escalator Safety Advisory Committee, and we have sought the support from the trade associations, trade unions, professional bodies, and representatives of responsible persons and the public. While the trade has sufficient registered lift and escalator engineers, the fact that we recommend the repeal of the second transitional arrangement will not impact on the manpower resources in the trade. In late 2027, the repeal of the transitional arrangements will offer 4 years of adaptation period. We also provide adequate care to in-service practitioners so as not to affect their livelihood. We have obtained the support of all relevant stakeholders. They support our proposal unanimously. So after obtaining support from members, we will, by way of commencement notice in Q1 2024, submit to the Legislative Council. We prescribe that on the 31st of December 2027, we will repeal the second transitional arrangement of the qualification requirement for becoming a registered lift or escalator engineer. Thank you.
而家
Thank you. It is now time for members to speak. 3 members have indicated their wish to speak. First would be Ms. Doreen Kong, 3 minutes. Thank you, Chair. I have several questions. 1, for the past 10 years, when you talk about 240 practitioners, how many new practitioners are there per year? If you don't have figures for the past 10 years, I can do with past 5 years. So you said there are more than 100 practitioners in the trade who possess a bachelor's degree in engineering. That's why I want to know about the figures in the past and how many new practitioners or new professional engineers there are per year in future. My next question is in relation to the age distribution of the 240. Are many of them in their 50s or 60s? My next question is about wastage. Do you have any figures on the wastage in the past few years? As you know, there's much wastage in many sectors. And also, how many new escalators and lifts are there in future? Do you have figures on that? Well, when we're talking about 240, They are those who would maintain lifts and escalators. I believe there are 351 in total. Well, I don't know if the department has any details on the changes. We went from 327 to 618. So there are already a 220 change. I'll let the department give supplementary information of that. Well, in relation to the age distribution of the 300 practitioners, they are 52.7 years old on average. There are approximately 2,000 lifts and escalators that have to be replaced. Well, I'll let my colleagues from the EMSD to give supplementary information. Thank you. Well, we have always seen an increase in the number of practitioners since 2021 and 2012 to 2022. There is an 18.6% increase. Every year there are new practitioners entering the trade. For the 2,000 figure, we have approximately 1,400 lifts or escalators per year that have to be examined or that have to have works done. Next, Mr. Chen Hopfeng, please. Thank you. I can see that for each registered engineer, they can spend half a day examining 2 lifts or escalators, so they can do 4 per day. So from what I understand, after inspecting the lifts or escalators, they will issue safety certificates. Often lifts would have to travel many stories. If they are inspecting 2 lifts half a day, would they miss something? Should we ask them not to examine that many lifts in a day? As lifts age, they are in poor condition. If they are so rushed, I'm not sure if safety can be ensured. There are many accidents involving lifts and escalators over the years. Is any punishment imposed on the lift or escalator engineers should accidents happen? Also, the department says that there is adequate manpower, but from what I glean from the front line, there is shortage and there is an aging manpower base. How will the department deal with that disparity? Thank you. Well, I believe the EMSD is working from their experience and the engineers will allocate enough time. Well, are you asking them to complete 2 lifts or escalators half a day? Well, some of them will be shorter. Some of them would take longer. So they are just providing a rough figure. It's not that they are asked to examine 2 lifts in half a day. So they have just given their figures. On average, they will spend half a day to examine 2 lifts or escalators. It is not a KPI that they have to meet. Now, there are 16 convictions so far, 8 convictions so far out of 16 accidents, and they are criminal convictions. There are 6,000 odd engineering personnel and 2,000 odd general personnel. We have all along been trying to attract people to join the trade. We have in place some career progression pathways so that people can work their way towards something higher. We believe the department can give supplementary information on measures to attract new talent. We have been working with contractors QF2 to QF5 courses. There are QF3 and QF5 courses that have already been launched for workers to polish their skills and learn more. We will launch more courses next year. Next, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, please. Thank you, Chair. In relation to the registration of registered lift or escalator engineers, I believe many rounds of consultation had been done, and at this stage, I think they're just continuing with their work. There is not much potential dispute about that. But I have my concerns about the passing on of experience and know-how. I have talked to professors of the relevant curriculum in universities. They have expressed difficulties in admitting adequate students. They do not have much work to do, and with the low fertility rate, there are only going to be less students in future. I hope that the administration will continue to liaise with universities and education institutions. It is only through concerted efforts that more students will want to study this project and join the trade. I agree with what other members said. There are different tiers of personnel in the trade, and there is much manpower shortage. If we have to enhance lift or escalator safety, there is funding that people can apply from the government. If we have to make sure lifts and escalators are safe, we have to repair or upgrade the lifts and escalators if necessary. There is much work to be done from what I know, and the frontline personnel has all along been inadequate according to the trade. I hope that the administration notes this situation. If you are doing work in that regard, please tell us. Thank you. Well, in relation to the manpower situation, it's the same with the sector and other construction sectors. What we think is that by enhancing the professional status, we can attract new talents. We will also continue to liaise with universities. We'll step up publicity efforts as well. From our survey, a registered engineer would earn approximately $59,000. That's just an average figure, so that is quite attractive for workers. We have worked with the VTC, Vocational Training Council, to help in-service practitioners to get further training so that they can progress further on the career path. Well, I believe all members have spoken on the item. The discussion for the item has finished. We'll move on to the next agenda item. Any other business? I have no other business. If members have no other business either, this is the end of the meeting. Thank you, everyone, for attending the meeting.